His father's expression hardens, the amusement gone. "You're making a mistake, Taehyung. One that will follow you for the rest of your life. When this boy leaves you, when the world tears him apart for his association with you, what will you have left? You'll come crawling back, humiliated and alone." But Taehyung, though shaken by the cruelty of his father's words, remains steadfast. "I'd rather be alone and true to myself than stay trapped in a lie. You don't understand, and you never will. What I have with Jungkook, it's real. And I won't give it up just to appease your outdated sense of honor." For a long moment, his father says nothing, the silence oppressive. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, almost deadly. "You'll regret this, Taehyung. Mark my words. You've chosen a path that leads to ruin." Taehyung meets his father's gaze, unflinching. "Maybe. But it'll be my path, not yours. And I'll take that over a lifetime of pretending any day." With those final words, Taehyung turns on his heel and walks out of the room, leaving his father behind in a silence that feels as cold and unyielding as the man himself. Each step away from the office feels like a release, a step toward the life he's always wanted, even if it means leaving everything else behind. As the door slams shut, the echo reverberates through the room, but Taehyung's heart races with a newfound clarity. The storm of emotions within him still rages, but it's no longer confined, it's free, unleashed in defiance of a lifetime of suffocating demands. His father's condescending smirk and cruel words are still fresh in his mind, but they no longer hold the power they once did. Taehyung's steps are heavy, each one feeling like a step further away from the expectations that had been imposed on him. His breaths come in uneven bursts, but the weight of the decision settles more lightly on his chest than he had expected. It isn't fear he feels, it's relief. His future, for the first time, feels like it belongs to him. As he exits the building, the cool air of the city night hits him, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere he'd just left behind. He pulls out his phone, his hands trembling slightly, and dials the only person who matters right now, Jimin. His voice wavers for a moment, but there's a certainty there that wasn't present before. "I'm done with it." With all of it. There's a pause on the other end. Then Jimin's voice, soft and filled with concern, comes through. "Taehyung, what happened?" "I finally told him," Taehyung replies, the words tumbling out, the weight of the moment sinking in. "I'm done living for him. I'm done pretending. I choose us." There's silence for a heartbeat, and Jimin's voice breaks the quiet, warm and steady. "Come home, Taehyung." And in that moment, Taehyung knows, despite the fallout, despite the uncertainty of the future, he's finally heading toward the life he's always wanted. A life of honesty, love, and freedom. As Taehyung's breath steadies, he feels the hollow ache of exhaustion settle into his bones. The silence in the car is thick, almost comforting after the storm that had raged within him. For the first time in what feels like hours, his mind quiets, allowing him to confront the wreckage left by his outburst. The headlights of passing cars momentarily light up his surroundings, highlighting the solitude he now occupies. Outside, the world moves on, indifferent to his turmoil, and he realizes he's been on the periphery of his own life, letting himself be swept along by other people's expectations, their words, and the pressures that had chained him. Yet, sitting here, amid the aftermath of his breakdown, he feels a strange emptiness, but also a kind of openness, as if he's stripped down to the bare essentials of himself, no longer weighed down by the layers of resentment and expectation. The release had left him raw, yes, but also strangely relieved. He feels a need to drive forward, not in a frenzy, but with a quiet purpose, as if the road could somehow lead him to a truth he's been running from. With a shuddering breath, he turns the key in the ignition, the car humming back to life, steady and unhurried this time. He eases it back onto the road, his hands relaxed on the steering wheel, guiding him through the empty streets that wind like veins through the city. The night stretches before him, vast and silent. He follows the road he doesn't know, without a destination, letting the rhythm of the tires on the asphalt soothe his mind. He knows he can't outrun his pain, can't erase what's been said or done, but he can choose how he carries it. This thought comes to him unbidden, settling in his mind like a fragile seed. As the city lights cross past and the road begins to lead him out into the countryside, he feels a whisper of something he's long forgotten: hope. It's faint, almost fragile, but it's there, and he holds on to it, letting it be his guide for now. For the first time in years, he isn't running from himself, he's driving towards something, even if he doesn't yet know what it is. The night air fills his lungs, cool and bracing, and for now, that's enough. Taehyung swirls the last bit of whiskey in his glass, watching the ample liquid catch in the dim light before letting out a sigh. He feels Jimin's expectant gaze, and for a moment, he considers brushing it off with a light-hearted remark. But he knows his friend, and he knows he needs this to release the thoughts weighing on him. Running a hand over his face, Taehyung leans forward, his elbows resting on his knees. It's everything, Jimin. The job, my marriage, the expectations I thought I could live up to but can't seem to get right. I don't know, maybe I'm just stuck. Jimin's expression softens, his teasing demeanor shifting into one of empathy as he listens without interruption. It's a quiet relief to have someone who understands, who doesn't need an elaborate explanation to catch the meaning behind Taehyung's words. It's like, Taehyung continues, struggling to find the right words. I spent so long building this life, you know? But now I look around and don't recognize any of it. Or myself, for that matter. He lets out a hollow laugh. Hell, I don't even know when I last did something for myself. I'm just tired, Ben. Tired of feeling like I'm always falling short. Jimin nods, letting the weight of Taehyung's words settle between them. Sounds like you've been carrying a load no one could keep up with, mate. Maybe it's time to start thinking about what you want out of all this, not just what everyone else wants. The words hit Taehyung harder than he expected. He'd always thought of himself as someone in control, someone who could bear any burden, but hearing Jimin put it so plainly makes him realize just how deep he's buried his own needs. Taehyung takes another slow sip, and then he sets the glass down with quiet resolve. Yeah, you're right. But it feels impossible, like I'd have to tear down everything just to figure out what that even is. Jimin leans forward, a determined glint in his eye. Not tear it down, mate. Maybe just remodel. Find the parts that are really yours and work from there. They sit in companionable silence, letting the words settle, each of them aware of the turning point in Taehyung's mind. In that quiet space, Taehyung feels a shift, a tiny glimmer of something akin to hope. Maybe it's the whiskey, or maybe it's just having a friend who cares enough to listen, but he feels ready, just a little, to start looking for a way to reclaim himself. To find a life that feels like his own again. He raises his glass, the warmth in his chest now a mix of friendship and newfound determination. to remodeling, he says, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Jimin grins, lifting his glass to meet Taehyung's. To finding yourself, one piece at a time, they clink glasses, the sound punctuating a moment of quiet resolve. And for the first time in a long time, Taehyung feels like he just might be able to face what lies ahead. Jimin gives Taehyung a knowing look, leaning in just slightly, the curiosity evident in his eyes. Complicated, and yet, here you're, sharing whiskey with an old friend, lost in thought over him. Must be something special about this one. Taehyung manages a slight smile, but it's tinged with an edge of uncertainty. He's different. Not like anyone I've known. With him, I feel free. Like I don't have to pretend, you know? I can just be me. He pauses, staring into the amber depths of his glass, as if they might reveal the answers he's still searching for. But it's risky, Jimin. If my family found out, if she found out, I'd lose everything I've built. Jimin lets out a low hum, watching Taehyung carefully. So, you're telling me that this guy is someone who makes you feel alive, who pulls you out of all the facades, and yet, you're terrified of what he might cost you. Taehyung nods, feeling the truth of it settle over him. Yeah. I know it sounds selfish, but it's like, I'm torn. I love him, but at the same time, I can't just abandon everything, my family, my reputation, even my career, all of it's tied to this life I've built. And as messed up as that life is, it's still mine. Jimin takes a contemplative sip, letting Taehyung's words hang in the air. Look, mate, you're caught between two lives. And it's a hard place to be. But here's the thing, you don't have to choose everything right now. Maybe just let yourself feel. See where it leads, without the pressure of all these expectations. Give yourself a little grace. Taehyung exhales, surprised by the weight those words lift off him, even if only for a moment. It's not that simple, Jimin. But maybe you're right. I've spent so long trying to keep everything in balance that I don't even know what I want anymore. Except him. He's the only thing that feels real right now. Jimin reaches out, clasping Taehyung's shoulder with a steady hand. Then let him be real, Taehyung. Even if it's only for a moment, even if it's not forever. Life's too short to deny yourself the chance to be truly happy. And if he's the one thing that brings you peace, then maybe he's worth the risk. A small glimmer of hope flickers in Taehyung's chest as he absorbs Jimin's words. He's still unsure, still caught in the tides of expectation and duty, but maybe, just maybe, there's a path forward. A path that could hold both the man he's becoming and the life he wants to build. He raises his glass one last time, his voice low but resolute. To taking risks, and finding out who we really are. Jimin smiles, clinking his glass against Taehyung's. To living, mate. In all its messy, beautiful glory, and with that, they drink, letting the warmth of whiskey and friendship carry them into the uncertain promise of the night. Taehyung stares into his glass, absorbing Jimin's words as the silence between them deepens. The memory of that night lingers, jagged and raw, each fragment of it cutting through him like broken glass. Yeah, live with the cracks, he murmurs, a faint, bitter smile tugging at his lips. Feels like that's all I've been doing lately. Jimin reaches over, placing a hand on Taehyung's shoulder, offering a quiet strength. Look, mate, I know it feels like the end. But life, it is a way of surprising you. Maybe this chapter with Jungkook is over, maybe it's not. Either way, It's not the end of you. Taehyung nods, feeling a hint of solace in the words, though a dull ache still gnaws at him. It's just, I thought he was different. I thought I was different with him. And when it all went to hell, it made me wonder if I'd just been lying to myself all along. Jimin raises his glass with a knowing smirk. Maybe he was different. And maybe you are, too. Doesn't make what happened any less real. He takes a sip, as if letting the thought settle in. Maybe, just maybe, you'll get another shot at that kind of connection someday. But you've got to forgive yourself first, yeah? You can't keep carrying this around like a dead weight. The words strike a chord, and Taehyung feels the heavy walls around his heart shift just slightly. For the first time in a long time, the possibility of letting go, of finding a way to live with the cracks, seems within reach. He raises his glass in a silent toast, meeting Jimin's steady gaze. To learning to live with the cracks, he echoes, and the two men share a knowing nod before they drink, allowing the warmth of friendship and forgiveness to carry them through the rest of the night. Taehyung falls silent, absorbing Jimin's words as they hang heavy in the air. He swirls the whiskey in his glass, watching as the ample liquid catches the dim light. I don't know if I have the strength to open that door again, only to watch it close on me. Jimin gives a sympathetic smile. I get it, mate. But sometimes, it's the doors we fear reopening that lead us to the peace we're missing. Just think of it this way, if you reach out, you'll at least get some closure, whether it's the beginning of something new or the final goodbye. You won't have to keep wondering. Taehyung nods slowly, letting out a deep sigh. Closure. God, I don't even know if I want that. Part of me just wants to hold on to this, to keep the memory of him close. Like if I let go, I'll lose the last bit of him I have.